right, and we're recording because we're not live this week. we're
Yeah.
we're recording. Yes, it's a holiday for many of you out there. It was a holiday last week where I was in Canada, but we did a good show last week, and now we got another one in store. How are you doing, sir? Good to have you here.
I'm very well, thank you for having me back, Script. It's very good to be here, and hello to everyone. We've got a really good script to talk through tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. There's some good things in it. We're going to have some good chats, put it that way.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have some good chats here. Yeah, so yes, for those of you who are watching this during the premiere or during the recording, yes, this is a recorded one for the holidays. But don't fret. I will be in the chat with you guys re-listening to this. so
As will
so
I,
um,
as will I on Saturday. Yeah,
that'll be great. So yes, so we'll try to make it as live as we can, even though I will be probably somewhere doing something I don't want to do, which I'd rather be doing this. Which I'm glad I'm doing this here
indeed.
at the recording. And I'm
Yeah.
glad to have you here again back on the show. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome to Scripts on Saturdays, the only screenplay review show on the interwebs discussing scripts both professional and amateur, circulating around Hollywood, giving you, the TV and movie-going audience, a behind-the-scenes and inside track on what writers are pushing and what producers are buying. I am of course your host, the Script Doctor. Joining me this week is Gums 1983, back again for another script. Um, how is it going over there, sir, across the pond? I know it's a little late, but it's not too late as normally on the Saturday shows. So yeah,
Yeah, this is like a matinee appearance. This one, yeah, it's
yeah,
been good actually, my friend. Thank you very much for asking. We had the beautiful Northern Lights a few weeks back there, so got a few pictures. I sent one to yourself when you were
yeah. They're
discussing it
they're
on the stream.
gorgeous. I was so
Yeah,
disappointed over here. We had such thick overcast. We couldn't
there's
see
another one
them.
coming. There's another one coming. Noah said there's another coronal mass ejection C5 event coming soon. It's going to pass us. They happen all the time, but
Yeah, yeah.
one's going to pass us in terms of for us to see it. So
Similar.
hopefully you'll get a chance to see it the next time in terms of that.
Yeah.
Apart from
I
that, yep.
mean,
Just sorry when you go.
well, I've been north enough to see the northern lights naturally, which is always nice. And I've also seen them
Yes.
in Australia, like the southern lights, because they don't have a.
There's
They're further north. They're further south. Further north. What's north? North's
yeah,
not a
there's
word.
Aurora Australis or something that's called. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes. They're gorgeous
Um,
as well. But like in the one of the pictures that you showed me with the cloud coverage, like you see on the dark parts of the cloud where nothing gets through. That's what I had the entirety over my
oh,
entire neighborhood, even to an hour out. I was calling my cousin who lives right on the edge of the town where I am in, because we're just north of Toronto, and he's just like, yeah,
mm,
half the sky is completely dark from the clouds, and then if you go a bit further northeast, you can kind of see the lights piercing through. And he's like, it was just bad timing for where we were in the region.
yeah,
But yeah, if it's coming back again, that's gonna be great, and you know it's good. It's nice. It's a hopeful, wondrous type of
yeah.
visual, which kind of, awkwardly dovetails into this. We have a very kind of wondrous type of script that plays into superhero genre. We will,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's called Viva Mexico. It's written by Miguel Flatow. It's from I believe it's from it's from the 2023 blacklist, if I'm not mistaken. My notes say 2022, but I think that I got that wrong.
The one I've got is the 30th of the 8th, 2022,
Oh
so
yeah,
it's
it,
most
it
likely
was
going
written
to.
in 2022, but it was part of the late in
Yeah.
2020. It was part of the 2023 blacklist. And yeah, this actually placed a little higher than expected, or wait, or maybe it was the 2022. I'm getting so confused right now. Anyways, it placed 17th on the blacklist with
Yep.
15 votes. Um, so Gums, share with us the log line, please.
So the log line is when a washed up superhero gets betrayed by a Mexican government, he must lead a populist social movement to fight the narcos, topple the government, and free the people.
As the synopsis goes, John Bloom is a schlub living day by day in a drunken stupor when his agent tells him of a superhero job available in Mexico. The money is okay, but it's better than the nothing he has now, so he's off to help a governor of Mexico rescue 5 kidnapped congressmen. But what John is about to learn is that this is much more than a rescue. It's a revolution. So,
Hmm.
Gums, What were your first impressions of the opening act of this screenplay?
I enjoyed it. I liked the opening act. I liked how it nowhere, well, based on my readings, nowhere did it say he was a superhero. It just he was. You know, you were there was sprinklings of he was special in us in per se, but I liked it. I liked the character building of him to show, you know, like he was obviously something, and now he's came on hard times. He's not, you know, what he used to be in terms of obviously clearly being a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the building of him because you could really relate to him. Like a lot of people have maybe fell on hard times and they've not per se came out the other end and maybe ended up at the bottom of the barrel, shall we say.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that kind of character building and looking at his life. Like even when, you know, he gets the offer of the job, the agent's like, yeah, but my cut is, you know, you're not going to get very much. And he's like, how much? And he's still saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That's like normal when people, you know, offer you something like a job or something like that. You're like, well, how much is it going to be? What's, you know, what's the salary? What are we getting paid? And they're just saying, deflecting the answer. Well, how much money are you going to give me for this thing? I need to know. And you know that is never given to him. I liked the airport scene. I wouldn't say it's fourth wall breaking, but I liked the kind of nudge, wink, wink
Mm-hmm.
with the child in the Avengers t-shirt.
Yeah, who wanted
Because
his
he had to
autograph
wear,
and realizes he's not the Captain America type. Because like
yeah,
when we meet this John guy, he's going to like a very kind of rundown convenience store, grabbing a 6-pack
yep,
of Corona,
yep,
and costs him like $1 per cigarette. And he's
yeah, I got, yeah,
and
yeah,
and
that was,
and on his way back home, he sees, you know, a woman getting accosted, and he decides, okay, like fine, I'll help her, and it feels like it's something he feels like he has to do as opposed to something he knows he should do. And then
yeah,
this is where we realize this out of shape guy has some serious strength behind him, and he just like plows
yes.
these two kids into the ground, rescuing this woman. And then there's this running joke that they keep recognizing him from a Peloton commercial.
I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that. I thought
And
that was
because they
brilliant.
start
That,
off right off the top with that, is that he's really down on his luck. He's doing, you know, mall appearance. Like you get the idea that he's been doing like appearances on things just for cash to get by. And
yeah,
finally, Danny, his agent, who we never see, we only hear his voice, but he basically says he got him a gig. It's in Mexico. It's
yep,
not federal. It's state level, which apparently is really important to him. He doesn't like working for the feds.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, this is the premise. Some congressmen in southern Mexico have been kidnapped. The governor wants to hire you to fly out. He's going to put you up and you know, rescue these 5 congressmen so he can stop this uprising that's happening in this part of the country. And that's our premise that we're following through. And we find out that John's superhero name is Captain Bald Eagle.
Again, that's just, you know, that kind of joke where
Mm-hmm.
it's very aware of itself. It's very self-aware. This type of script is very self-aware,
Yeah.
and it's really on the nose. It's like, you know, Captain America. What would they be called? Really, probably Super Bald, like, you know, Super Bald Eagle or Captain Bald Eagle or
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. And it's like, you know, you just see that Florida man standing with the American flag in the hurricane. That's the type of image I got when I was reading it. You know, America, that kind of thing. I liked it because at first when I started reading it, as I say, I didn't. Nowhere did it tell me it was a superhero. So I was like, right, I'm quite enjoying this. And you could tell the guy had a bit about him, and then obviously the penny dropped when it said to put your superhero outfit on. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, right, okay, that's fine. But I liked how it was done. That it wasn't just thrown in your face like this man had saved the world or he did whatever it was, you know, that kind of thing. And I liked that. I found that quite refreshing because even when they try and not tell you or they'll make you put the pieces together 990 times out of 100 they'd still tell you eventually at some point like they did here, but I quite liked it. I don't know, it was just quite refreshing. Maybe it was the way it was written or maybe the way I read it. Maybe, you know, maybe I missed a couple of chapters, a couple of lines or whatever. But no, I like John. I could relate to him, and I think a lot of people could relate to him, especially like no working for the feds. Obviously, he comes to that at a
Mm-hmm.
later point. The reasons why, the Mexican side of things, I thought was written
He's very
by
much
a
an
clearly,
he's very much an underdog in this. Like that's the thing. Like we
yes,
relate, like, you know, sometimes we've all been out in public and we see something And, you know, our instinct is we should help. And then we're also thinking, well, there's going to be some consequences if we get involved. Like, if I have
Hmm.
to get into a
Hmm.
physical altercation, is the guy who I beat up, is he going to press charges for assault on me?
Yeah,
Or is he
absolutely.
actually a lot stronger than what I think he is? Is he going to kick my butt too and then do worse things to the person I'm
To
helping or
get
what
him.
have you? Like, you have to weigh those scales, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and I like the fact that this was kind of an attitude that was here. And then, yeah, when he gets to the airport, he departs. He's like, he flies economy because that's all the
Yeah,
Mexican
that
government could
was
afford.
that.
And then when he
Yeah,
arrives in Mexico, he's looking to see if there's someone that's going to take him to the governor's mansion, and there's nobody there. There's no chauffeur with his sign or anything, so he has to grab a cab. And he
the
doesn't
cross-eyed
speak the
cab driver.
language either, so the taxi driver is just going on this rant about how, yeah, it sucks that all of his friends and family that made it over
Hmm.
to the United States were then deported back. But he's like, but if Mexico were actually run properly, we wouldn't be going to the United States. And it's like, yeah,
Yep.
that's a good point. That's a social point to bring up
Yep.
there. But unfortunately, it all goes over the head of Captain Bald Eagle, who that's how he's referred to for the rest of the script once he gets to Mexico, because he
Yep.
doesn't speak any Spanish at all. So
Correct.
he's lost, and that's one of the things that I kind of appreciated at the start of this, is that it's established that this is supposed to be a dry comedy, and then
Yes. Yes.
and it starts off pretty strong with that, but when it starts to get a bit more complicated is when we start meeting all the players in Mexico, because we have a lot of
Yes.
characters, and only we've got Governor Pena, Carlos, Sergio, Sordomundo, Gabby, O'Brien, Papi
Yep.
Cholo, and then the main character Juan Rosso, right? Yeah, Juan Rosso.
Yep.
Um, Juan Rojo, yeah, probably Rosso or Rosso.
Arroyo. I got it as
Royo.
Juan.
And
Juan
it's
Arroyo.
and there are a lot of characters. There are a lot of
Yes.
characters, and the worst part is that aside from Juan and John and Gabby, they're all the other characters are indistinguishable on their voice, what their lines, what they're saying, what they're doing. Yeah, it's like I could not tell the difference between Papi Cholo and O'Brien when they're speaking, because I'm writing it and it's like, oh, the dialogue tone sounds kind of the same here, and then Carlos and Sergio, um, indistinguishable. Governor
Yeah.
Pena kind of bleeds into him as well, and then Sordomundo, he only has like 3 scenes, and
I bet he's
it's
evil.
his actions that stand out, but none of his dialogue stands out.
Yeah. I mean, you could see
Yeah.
they were putting the BGE, as he's called in about, or CBE, sorry. You could see they were putting them up to build them up to, you could see sprinklings of what they were trying to do. I mean, I
Hmm.
totally get, and that's one thing I've put down, especially on the bad guy side of things. You could look at, apart from even on the good guy side of things, we'll just kind of simplify them as that. On the bad guy kind of things, they only really got told they're like the professor. Like, why was he called the professor? You were told that, then nothing else.
Yep.
And then, like on the good guy side of things, it was the woman. Her name it totally escapes me right now. She had her tongue cut out, and it
Right.
was only told that because that was to explain why this guy's so evil.
Why is Sordomundo
But
so evil? Because he's called like the
yeah,
deaf
it's by
mute,
Sordomundo.
because he cuts
But
off your
no,
ears or your tongue, depending on. Which I thought
and
that's a clever name, but they never bring it up again.
yes, yes, and it's one of those things. I think that you could look at it and go, I think it's a black comedy. I think it's a dark comedy. It's not the Eve like Sordomundo was evil,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like chewing the scenery evil. It wasn't like slapped. He was genuinely just an evil guy who had evil intentions and had no care about what his actions did. I liked the writing in terms of immersing in the Mexican sort of ideologies and that kind of thing. You clearly the person that wrote this is Mexican or he has stayed in Mexico.
Yeah.
You can see that realistic. Maybe obviously no evil guys running about cutting folks' ears off, but you can see that realistic. I've stayed there. I've seen these kind of things going on,
Hmm.
and that kind of made up for. I mean, the worst thing that broke it for me was when the governor called Juan Royo's squad of merry men,
Hmm.
or men in tights, if you want to say, because it's a comedy, they called them the cartel,
Right.
and that just broke it. It was unforgivable for me because I'm like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a connection.
It doesn't.
Connection. Like that's what they're
Yeah, exactly.
essentially.
It does that. That's just stupid. Well, not stupid. You want to call some days work
Well,
stupid, but
it
it broke my
teeters.
immersion then.
Yeah, because it teeters between, okay, is this going to be a dark, dry comedy, or is it going to be serious film with comedic elements? And
Yes.
it kind of bounced all over the place in tone because I will say the funny aspect is like the first, as soon as he, Captain Bald Eagle gets his mission orders from the governor, he's like, yep, we're going to put you up in this hotel to get into this SUV, you drive away. His SUV gets ambushed and he's kidnapped by the big bad guy, this Sordomundo, who ties him up
Hmm.
and he talks about, yeah, I'm going to cut your ear tongue off if you don't tell me what's going on,
With a rusty knife.
with a rusty
That
knife.
was
And
that was cute. I like that.
and I'm laughing a little bit at this. I'm like, okay, cool. So we've got a guy here, and then we kind of start realizing that yes, maybe he, Captain Bald Eagle is a superhero with advanced strength, but he's not super strong. He's got his limitations,
Yes.
which I thought was cool, and he's able to be out of shape,
Yes.
and he's also a little drunk because the governor liquored him up while he was there.
Well, that's one part, but we don't know if there was at no point in it was there ever stated that there could have been other things in it.
Right.
That was my head canon. That maybe dropped a little bit extra illicit substances, shall we say, in his
Yeah, so
drink.
Rohypnol or something like that, just to like
Yeah, something like that, or
discombobulate
I
him.
think
We have
a
no
wee
we have
bit
no
because
clue, no setup on that, unfortunately. But
yep.
but yeah, that like right off the bat, like within the first, I would say 20 pages, we're into the crap where Captain Balgigo is now a hostage by the head of this cartel, this other
Hmm.
cartel, possibly like a mafioso of sorts, and yeah, he's basically being told, like, he's got this fake mask of Juan Rojo that he's going to wear when he cuts off the guy's head. And he's like, wow, this is really elaborate stuff. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden, he gets ambushed by a bunch of guys in hoods, ski masks and hoods that are just shooting up the place. And then he gets rescued, but they don't even take him out of the chair, which I thought was funny. They just pick him up in the chair, throw him in the
yeah,
back of a red
like
pickup
that.
truck, and then just hightail it
Yeah,
out of there. And I'm like, okay,
the shield.
okay. I'm still thinking this is a comedy right now. I'm digging it. I'm on board. And then
Yeah,
we meet the real Juan Rojo, and yeah, he just starts going into exposition, and that's kind of where I'm like, all right, now we're getting a little ways away from here. We're finding out who he is. He's this wonderkin, massive IQ, plays chess, does his research on everybody he has. He's got this plan going on. He admits that he is the person that kidnapped these 5 congressmen, but he's got a plan with them. And he's not going to kill him. He's actually been very specific about that. But
yeah.
he's trying to convince Captain Bald Eagle that he's one of the good guys. And of course, Captain Bald Eagle's like, I have no clue what's going on right now, but you saved me from these bad guys, so you're one step better than where I was before. And he's just kind of going with it.
Mm,
Um, they give him a room at some sort of base camp somewhere in a village
yeah.
where he meets Gabby, who her husband was killed a couple of years ago by Sordomundo. We find
Hmm.
out from Juan that his mother was killed 2 years ago, most likely by the governor by way through of Sordomundo. Like there's some, and he's kind of like hinting at the fact that yeah, the governor is in cahoots with this character, and that's why they're doing this stuff. And for me, this is where the script kind of slows down because now it's just learning about this part of the world in this
Yeah.
story, as opposed to learning it through a result of action. So right now we're getting, um, you know, Captain Bald Eagle is recovering from his wounds inflicted on him by Sordomundo, and then he's also slowly learning Spanish and he's acclimating to the food. Like he has to have the green salsa before he can get to the white salsa because the red
Hmm.
salsa because it's way too hot.
Hmm.
And I'm just pondering to myself. I said, okay, some of the dialogue, some of the relationship stuff is good. We find out Gabby has a 10-year-old son named Diego who actually likes um, Captain Bald Eagle, and they kind of get along a little bit. And he's just like,
Hmm.
and the kid asks him, "Hey, can you play the goalie on our soccer team?" And he's like, "Sure, okay." And
Hmm.
it's got some good empathy here, but it's a waiting. These are waiting moments. This is like the story's not really happening, and the next beat that happens is when Juan says, "Yeah, we're gonna be releasing the congressman, because we have
Yeah.
the photos now that we need, and we're gonna do that." we get to our next good comedic beat, a cringy comedic beat, but not cringy for the wrong reasons, cringy for the I hope that never happens to me type of reasons, which is these congressmen are taped to various street posts naked
Yeah.
with photos of their corruption or their infidelity stapled to their genitals. And you're just, yeah, that's the exact
Ooh.
face I'm doing when I read that. I was like, oh,
I was
you
the
know,
same. I was the same. I was like,
geez.
ooh. Every man that'll read that will go, ooh.
Yeah, it's like, and
Because the
we,
wife as well, with the fact that the wife catches,
yes, like,
so
well, the
randomly
wife,
there's just a,
yeah, like the
yeah,
wife freaks out when she finds that her husband's there taped, and then she sees him and she's like trying to get away and get people to cover his nudity, and then she sees what's on the photo and she's like, oh my god, he's been cheating on me, and she just rips it right off, rips the photo right
and the
off
mom's
with the
like,
staple. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm wincing. And
I
I'm
say my offense.
like, yeah, this is some comedy, this is
I mean,
some good comedy.
I felt the pacing was off a bit when we met Juan. I felt it was ticking along nicely, like you're saying, and then obviously the cartel that ruined it for me in terms of that one bit. I just thought it was a silly name. It didn't need to be called anything. They could have just been called La Revolution or whatever. Whatever they wanted to call themselves. They could have called themselves the Cats,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned. But I feel that the pacing then started jumping. I mean, obviously, before we get to the bit where these congressmen or senators, whatever, are tied up with pictures stapled to their gentleman's sausage, um, there's a montage, and it clearly states montage
Yeah,
of all the things you just said, and I'm like, the thing that put in my head was that meme where it's like, it's gonna be a montage,
yeah,
that
yeah.
one, and I'm like, that was playing in my head when I was reading it, and I was like, all right, I'm back on board with this. You could see the funny bits, and then they would obviously try to bolt in some drama, like give some reason for these people doing what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we'll get to that, but I think I think he was written, like, I do think he was handled well up to this point. You could see he was down and out, and at all points in this, they were giving him a beer. They was giving him tequila.
Yeah.
They were giving him beer, and there was beer and tequila available to him. And you could see he was still doing the same things he did when he was back in the States, when he was stateside. And it was like, I like that. But then they mentioned, I don't want to go back to the start, but they mentioned they brought his antidepressants. At no other point in this were they ever mentioned
Right. Well, I mean, he had something
that
else
he
to
cured.
do. And I
Yeah,
think
he had the
I
health.
think that's what the writer was trying to get across. But you bring up a very good point, which is they montage a bunch of actually really important aspects. One of which is him falling for Gabby and vice versa. Like, we don't actually see a
Yes.
chemistry there. It's just kind of covered through a montage of events where she dresses his wound. From that, it's healed. He's hanging out with the kid playing soccer. She's happy with that. He helps her with groceries. She's happy with that. They go out dancing. They dance, and it gets a little intense. And it's like, okay, well, these are moments, but where's the conversation? Where's the flirtation? Is she playing hard to get? Is she actually interested in him? Is she only interested in him because he's a hero that can help the cause that she's part of fighting? Like, all the drama and stuff that you'd normally have in a script of this length, which is about 112 pages, you kind of want the romance to be a crux of it, especially in an action film. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things I really liked about Captain America: The First Avenger is the little romantic play between Peggy and Steve Rogers. Even though, like, she was drawn to him for his personality, even though physically she wasn't attracted to him. And then when he gets the big body, it's like, oh, best of both worlds. But then she started to look past that and see the little guy inside, and that's
Yeah, he was
kind of
still the
what she
same
ended
guy,
up
wasn't he?
being drawn to at the end. Like, the physical appearance ended up becoming immaterial. I'm like, that was really good, and that was not rushed through. There were certain stages of that being played, and
I think. Sorry.
this kind of missed that mark there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the montage, that whole bit, you could read maybe a minute or two, right? And if you're genuinely reading it and try to visualize what the scriptwriter's thinking, that song was playing in my head the whole way through. So
Yeah.
every single part in there wasn't hitting the. I mean, I know he's got a lot of things to fit into a short. Let's be honest, a very short period of time. The montage bit was it was comical. but you do miss out a lot in the different aspects of it because I mean I will go back to quickly go back to the bad guys, right? So when the bad guys are introduced to you, you've got Sordomundo, right, and you're like, he's just pure evil. He's just evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just evil for the sake of being evil. There's no redeeming qualities of him. There's nothing. He's just an evil SOB, right? Personally,
Right.
But when you look at the rest of them, right? So there's one guy here. Let's quickly pull that up there, right? The professor, and it clearly states here. It says 40s, looks just as mean as the others, but has glasses on. So it never tells you why he's the professor.
Right.
I would like to know why he's called the professor. I'd like to know Calica, why he's called Calica. I'd like to know even just a little bit to tell us
What's behind
why.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's the same on the other side.
Like, we know that there's a brief scene where they're trying to sell some drugs, and Juan and Captain Bald Eagle burn their supply down. Like, they find it and they burn it down.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is the professor the guy that mixes, cuts, and helps sort the drugs? We don't know. Never told.
We don't know. No.
We don't know what his importance is and how he plays into there. It's like we've got the surface level gimmicks, but we don't have the satisfying execution of them. And this is kind of happens because, after they've done their congressman release and they burnt down those drugs, the next big set piece is Juan takes Captain Bald Eagle to like a soccer game, and then later to a wrestling match with luchadors.
That I felt was just because either the writer really likes Lucha Libre wrestling, the style of wrestling, or it was added in just because purely it's in Mexico, and that's obviously soccer and wrestling are two of the bigger sports over there. I didn't understand. When you first start reading it, I tried to get my head round. I get a soccer game, right? Because soccer's huge in Mexico, right? And it is. I get the understanding of going to that because it's a social event. They'll be able to talk quite freely in amongst people. The Juan wants people to see him. He wants to be seen. We're never told how many people are in there, but most Mexican stadiums can hold about 40,000 people. Maybe not the size of the NFL stadiums back in the stateside, but they're very big and they're usually sold out. They're usually very full.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is they go to actually I'll come to that. I understand the soccer. I didn't even break it. But as soon as I started reading about the wrestling, I went, oh, wait, why? Why didn't why? There's no natural progression from going from this thing to the wrestling. Nobody said, oh, let's go, there's a famous match on tonight, or so-and-so's fighting tonight. Let's go, let's go see these famous wrestlers do their thing, and we'll make a night of it. We'll have a chill out night before, what happens.
Before our big skirmish or big, operation. Right.
Something as simple as that would have kept the immersion going. But as soon as obviously as you read further down in it, so the premise of it is they go, and when they go in, there's one wrestler likes Juan, and there's another one, and then
there's two dwarf wrestlers, or the midget
yeah,
wrestlers.
I was going.
Referred in
Thank
there.
God you said it, because I was waiting to say what they stated in the script.
Well, I mean, you got to go with what they stated. I mean, unless it's an egregious offensive word, I'm not going to repeat it. But yes, they're specifically called midget wrestlers.
Midgets, yes. And I was like, wow. In this day and age, the guys actually wrote that. But anyway, we'll leave that there. And when they go in, like the Juan's treated like some sort of second coming. Some people like him, some people don't. And then the whole reason they're there is to set the set piece for the fight. So they went there for a fight, effectively. Right. That's my canon I got from it. They went in there, and one half of the room wanted Juan, and the other half of the room wanted this, faceless governor, this evil overlord type person. And but the wealthy people were wanting the governor, obviously, and it was showing you that the poorer, middle class, working class people, they wanted Juan. So there's that divide straight away. So he's now categorized these types of people who are going to want to keep the status quo, and those who are wanting to try and change, Robin Hood Men in Tights, because obviously it's trying to be a comedy. They're trying to. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. He's now categorized these people, and they're now fighting. And then there's funny bits and bobs where we actually brushed over it. So before they go to the soccer game, was it before or was it before the wrestling? One of them.
No, soccer game was first, and then the wrestling was after. Yeah. They
talk about Captain Bald Eagle and how he became Captain Bald Eagle.
Yeah,
it was one of the only times they had.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, So they discussed it very quickly. It was over in a couple of paragraphs, I believe, actually, maybe even three at
Not
maximum.
even. Like, it
But
was
that
really
tiny,
quick.
yeah, yeah, it was very small. But a tiny little bit of information filled the dot because you're sitting going, this guy's a superhero. How is he getting stabbed? How is he getting, how is he being hurt? And they said that obviously when he took the super serum, they never gave him all of it.
Well, it's because he didn't really take it, because you find out he was a heroin addict, and the needle
Yep,
that was used for an actual super soldier program, and not all of the
yep,
super soldier the residue inside was dispersed of. So when he got his hands on a syringe that he needed to get a dose, he got a little bit of that super soldier serum with it, and we don't get any information what happens after the fact. Unfortunately, all we know is that somehow from that hit of narcotics that
mhm.
had a little bit of super soldier serum, because someone was dumpster diving in the the medical waste bins
Random needles and dumpsters, that's just
to
that
to
blew me away. That bit,
to get
it's
that. This guy who is probably on death's door gets saved through
yeah,
um, irony, essentially. And I thought that's a
yeah,
actually interesting
yeah,
gimmick. That's a great premise. What if a
yep,
heroin addict who searching for a needle and finds one at a government facility, injects himself with his
yeah,
drug, and it turns out that needle was used to inject a America's super soldier superhero with the same stuff, and the residue inside mixed in with the heroin, and gave him a little bit of a boost of power, where he's not super strong, but he's definitely stronger than the average man. Um,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden he's like got the strength and power, and what does he do? Does he become a superhero, become a criminal? And we're seeing
yeah.
part two of this story, I feel like. um
Yes, yes. I mean that could have been well done. That whole bit could have been a self narrative at the very start.
yeah, like the
Like
premise alone is
how
is a
how
bit more
how
interesting than this one here, even though I like the idea of, oh, a citizen's revolt against a corrupt government. I'm all for those types of stories because they're fascinating.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I'd look at the world right now. It might not be far away from many countries, that type of thing. But I feel when I read that, the first thing was that's absolute nonsense, right?
Hmm.
No self-respected anything's going to throw needles in the dumpster. But you know what I mean in terms of that. How did he get his hands on it is the first question, right? There's
Yep.
the question. There's no answer given, but I think that could have been a self-narrative at the very start. Him saying, "Bet you wonder how I got here." It's saying to us, so then we are in on something that nobody else knows per se until much later on. I find that could have been dealt with a bit better in terms of adding it there, because then it gives us a little bit more to root for him. Because let's be honest, right the way through this, as I said, I think he was written well. I think he was written well. I think you really did root for him as I say, like an underdog. We've discussed this off air, and both of us came to the same agreement that he is a bit an underdog.
Hmm.
And then that's the reason why he's the underdog, because he was, well, let's be honest, a junkie. He was a heroin addict. He got blessed with this super serum, even if it was a tiny wee dose, enough to make him super
Yeah,
in
enough to
the
make him
very
be
lowest
something
sense
more
of the
than
word.
a junkie. Yeah. And he
Yeah,
did something
absolutely,
with it,
absolutely.
but it didn't. But the lifestyle didn't always kind of agree with him. There's still something he was missing from being an
Yeah,
actual superhero. But I will say, even though I agree, I liked the underdog aspect and everything of that nature. One thing that was kind of really missing for me is I didn't understand what Captain Bald Eagle was really striving for at the end. Like, what was motivating him to go anywhere? Like, what was his direction? Because right now, I understood Juan Rojo's great. He wanted revenge for the murder of his mother. He wanted
yep,
to make the government no longer be in cahoots with cartels and other organized forms of crime. He wanted it back to be in the hands of the people. He wasn't really pushing anything communist, as far as I could tell in the
mhm,
script. So it was basically like, no, he wants something more with, like, the citizens choose how they are going to be governed, type of thing.
yeah,
And it's supposed to be honest and transparent, as opposed to what is currently happening right now.
and
And that's actually reflected in the ending to a degree, but we're not going to
yeah,
spoil that ending beyond
not
that
yet, no.
that ambiguous statement. But like, I
I mean,
think because you
sorry.
made a point that like Ron Woho seems to be like the main character of this, and I'm totally in
Yes.
agreement. He has got way more going on. He's got motivation. He's got a goal. He doesn't have a love interest. He just has a passion for trying to
Yes.
do what he is doing. But the only thing that kind of circumvents that a little bit is he likes to play soccer, go watch soccer games, go to wrestling matches, party in between, and it's like it feels like he's not as dedicated when we're getting into those scenes. But I part of me
Yes.
feels like the motivation is to show Captain Bald Eagle this is what we're fighting for, and at the same time, it's like, well, if these are the things that are still operating, they're already here. You're not trying to rescue them from anything if they're still functioning. But Juan has to then convince him, no, the reason we're fighting for these things is because all of the things that allow the rest of the country or the rest of the state function is these are being used to distract the people from being involved in that. So you have to find a
Well,
balance.
that's it. That I was just going to come to that as well.
Yeah, so
There's a
take it
quote I'm
away,
going to
sir.
read from the script as well, but the main point is, so I'm going to read this verbatim from the actual script even.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, Juan, so are you ready, Captain Bald Eagle, to kill the narcos, topple the government, and help you rescue the state? No, man, it's Wednesday, football day. And he's like, Captain Bald Eagle goes, football? He says, or soccer for you illiterates. I still don't understand why you guys call it football, a sport you play mostly with your hands. And then at the boom there, it's like, because actually, I never thought of it that way. So make sure you wear your costume. People need to see you're alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect as well. So you're absolutely right. Like, you look at him and you're like, yeah, absolutely, this guy's, he's trying to be the Che Guevara of, of what he's trying to do. But then it not necessarily ruins it, because you can't be 100% intense 100% of the time. You'll end up with you'll end up with a hernia or something. But they just drops that randomly. Let's go to football.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as I said earlier on, that's a natural thing in Mexico. A lot of business will be dealt with there. A lot of things will be discussed there. And he says it there. He actually says it. He says, I want people to see you. So him taking him to the football isn't necessarily a gesture of kindness. It's just him saying, well, people are going to see you're alive, We need to keep that narrative flowing. And then it's like the other side of the aspect of this, so that on the sort of bad guy side of this, is the elections are held stereotypically during massive or big football games where the turnout for the election will be lower because everyone's away at the football. The governor actually says that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's both sides. There's both sides of football soccer, given actually in the script, and I found that quite good. Actually, I like that, because at least it's given the bad guys a reason for this, whatever their nefarious schemes are, that I did no doubt we will get.
And
into.
why nothing really changes in this part of region of
Correct.
Mexico is because they play into the culture so that they can take advantage of it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that idea. And things kind of but the thing is, this soccer game part, it felt a little contrived because not the soccer game, sorry, the wrestling match part felt a little bit contrived. The soccer game stuff was good because that sets up the framework of this is how the local society functions. Almost the entire state is here watching this game. It is part of what they do, and because everybody knows that we all go here, they'll host an election on this day because people would rather watch a soccer game than vote for someone that could actually make them watching the soccer game be a privilege as opposed to an escape or something of that nature, right? The back and forth. And so what I really I appreciated that part of the scene. But when we jump a little bit later and we go to the wrestling match where then Captain Bald Eagle is competing, you find out at the end of that scene, it was all designed just to get them out of the base camp so that the governor, who is then revealed to be in cahoots with Sordomundo, can kidnap Gabby and Diego and set their camp on fire and try and really hurt them. And even though there's a nice little action set piece and Captain Bald Eagle fights and he gets shot in the foot, but he's doing well. Oh, silly me, we skipped over a joke when they're looking for his shield because he left his shield was left behind when he was rescued. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but this is actually a decent joke. When they go out on the hunt looking for the shield and they find it, it's being used as a guacamole bowl. And I thought that was kind of silly, but also it's it's a big shield. So there's a lot of guacamole in there.
It's small, yeah. I mean, how big you're talking? I would imagine it to be Captain America sized. It's going to be.
It's like a 20-inch wide diameter shield, but it also functions like the Captain America shield because we get a sense where Captain Bald Eagle, he throws it, it doesn't bounce off anything, but it just comes back like a boomerang to him. Yeah. And it's like where
did he get that shield?
Yeah,
that's
where
the
did
next
he
question.
Get that shield? I guess he got it from the government when they found out that he was a superhero, and then they.
I mean, you missed one massive thing about Juan out as well. You missed a massive part of Juan's story out, like who they work for.
Yeah. exactly. Where is it, right? But yeah, but when their encampment is ambushed, um, this is the thing that kind of made me go, ugh, I hate when they do this. But so Captain Baldigo gets shot in the foot. He finds out that Gabby's been kidnapped, and so is Diego. And he's like, I want to go after them. And Juan's like, no, tonight we have to recuperate. Tomorrow we go. He's like, no, we got to go now. And here I am as a writer saying, no, you have to go now. Don't give them time. Don't do anything because stuff will happen. And then, of course, Juan is like, well, they're not going to kill them right away because they need them. It's like irrelevant. Just you go after them now because you're called escalation. But the writer puts a stopgap here where he's like, nope, rest. Take the bullet out of your foot, bandage it up. Tomorrow we're going to do our plan. And I was like, ugh, I'm really not in love with that choice.
I agree. I think as well as they built up Sordomundo.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what he was like. They call him Deaf Mute, right?
Yep.
They knew. They gave him a name. They knew what he's like, and he's got people that he is going to hurt. He's going to, he's going to be very, very violent towards, potentially violent towards. Let's be honest. And no, sorry, mate. We'll just go the other lie. It's like no. Let's go. And I think that was just. I found it. It didn't break it for me because I don't know a lot about Mexican culture. It could have been that's the kind of way they deal with things. It's fine. They're not going to kill her. They need her. They need her to bring us out. Blah blah blah. But I'm absolutely in your boat with that. That is one thing that griped me with the cartel, and then this part as well. I found it was very strange. Even make an attempt or follow them, find out where they're going. You don't need to go and assault their thing.
Yeah.
Find out where they are. Put somebody on a recce. Put somebody sitting there watching them.
Do something that knocks them out for a couple of hours so that you can say, oh, okay, yeah, well, as you were pursuing them, you got hit by a truck and then the truck exploded because it was full of chickens or something, and then we're lucky you survived.
Yeah. Guacamole.
We lost them. Give us
he got
something
covered
to
in a
show.
ton of guacamole or something like that. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
when you put a natural stopgap here, what follows later is in the morning they get a package and inside of it is Gabby's ear with her earring. And it's like, see, you should have gone after her that night because now she's...
It's when he goes like that. I mean, it cuts the Sordomundo and they're in there. And he's like, no wonder you... Obviously, he's been sleazy and horrible, just evil bastard, right? Let's be honest, right? And excuse my Scottish terminology there. But no, he's just... This is when you get to the point where he's genuinely just evil, right? And you just know he's evil. He's just like a Sicario type evil, that type of... And that kind of took away as well because at this point it's quite a breezy wee script. It's moving along quite nicely. There's a couple of stop gaps.
Yep.
The one you just discussed there, and then it's just pure evil, man. And you're like, right, that's out of sorts, but that's what these guys are like.
And this is when the tone changes because we're no longer there's no more jokes after this point. Like it's like, okay, this is the serious stuff here. We then find out
that's what I was going to get to as well. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
There's a rat
and then,
in Juan Rolo's team. I won't say which one, but when Gabby and Captain Baldigo finally kind of commit to their relationship, they are photographed just as the governors not the governors, just as the congressmen that were prior, and now that's going to be used as blackmail, even though it's like, well, how is that blackmail? Like they're not doing anything wrong. They're consenting adults. Neither one are attached to anything. You're not going to be able to win over this one, so that is also kind of a weak sauce in my opinion.
And then, well, they allude to when I read it, they randomly they just started talking about her earrings in the script. They started speaking about Gabby's earring, and I'm like, that's so random. Like, and then the penny dropped when he cut it off. Obviously, he's like, oh, that's a lovely earring. I'm like, come on, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like you could see they were setting it up way back when, and I don't mind that.
I appreciated that.
Hindsight, it's actually quite good, right? That they've actually bothered to do that. But some of it, like the jokes, right? So this one here, when they go to get the guacamole, right, and they go to get the shield, it's like they're standing outside, and Papi Cholo's like, "What this effing oregano? Keep eating, hands back the bag, keep eating your vegetables." And the guy's like, the wee teenager guy's like, oregano is a herb. And Papi Cholo's like, oh, is it? Papi Cholo then starts slapping the teenager as a mother would. Like, random.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep doing drugs? Papi Cholo in Spanish. So it's on Spanish as well, which I quite like.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's written in English, but it's said Spanish in brackets. And the wee teenager guy's like, no, we never know how old he is. Teenager could be 14, could be 18, 19, that thing. We're never told. So obviously that'll be at discretion. So teenager's like, no, never again. And then Papichuolo's like, is oregano a vegetable? And the teenager's like, no. And he gets a right good crack. Is it, you mean yes, it's a vegetable? And then he lets go of the teenager. Like, it's funny, but
It's funny,
it's
but
not
it just
that
feels
funny.
out of place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why you slap my random child? Like, why? Like, my question would be, why? Like, I get what you're trying to do, right? I get the idea, right? The Mexican, the Latina mame and all that,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff, right? I understand. See, if it had been a woman that done it, there you go, boom, that's it done. That's money. But it's just this random, just randomly. And then they go in and get obviously they go in and get the guacamole shield and all that back as well. And then that's when the tone changes. And you're like, right, so there's his girlfriend or his lover's ear in a box. And they're like, oh, don't look at it. Obviously, he's going to look at it. Obviously, he's
Yeah.
going to go, what's in that box? Because it's delivered for me.
Yeah. And it's
It's
for
delivered
him.
for,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
their
it's for him.
message.
He's been in the company of that person. He's been, very nearly had his earlobe cut off.
Hmm.
And he's the box is small. And I'm sitting going, oh, come on. The ear. Right, fine. At least it's not the child, let's be honest. It's not the kid's one, it's Gabby's ear, right? We know that with the earring still being on. And I'm like, they must have had a really good cut to cut an ear off when she's going to be wriggling about and she's going to be screaming and have the earring still attached. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
The guy must have a really good cut. But it's never ever explained in that. That's just my thoughts on it. Maybe I'm overthinking it, to be
Well,
honest
I
with you.
mean, I think the fact that he's got the nickname of the deaf mute suggests that he's actually gotten better with it as he's
Yes.
gone.
The rusty knife, as it were.
Maybe
And then
even with a rusty knife, he's still able to get like slicing ham. You know?
Yes, indeed, indeed. And I just think that with the writer, obviously being of Mexican descent, I don't know if he's Mexican, I don't know, he may be American, he could be bloody British for all I know. But of having a Mexican descent, it's like he's trying to shoehorn in a lot of Mexico into it to keep it as naturalized for the Mexican paying. So, because let's be honest, when Latinos go to something, they go in droves
Which
because
is
they
what I
enjoy
like
something.
about it. Yeah, you get immersed into
Exactly.
that type of passion. Yeah.
Correct. And this, some parts just feel like the wrestling just feels shoehorned in to tick a box saying Latinas love wrestling.
Yeah.
That to me, the football I get, everyone else I sort of can get past. Wrestling just totally, I was like, that just makes no sense to me. But whatever, we've discussed that. I'm not going to go back over it again. And it's like, some of the jokes don't land, but we're reading them. They're not being told to us by, like, I don't know, a comedian or someone that's, funny. They would probably do better with the actual work itself in terms of the actual jokes.
Maybe. Yeah.
There's a couple of ones I went, that'd be funny if so-and-so would say that. Or, like, who would Captain Bald Eagle be? Like, the last script I did, I had a cast list of every single person because I felt a bit more immersed in it. This one, I was like, it could be anybody, really. It could be a down-and-out actor. That's the kind of joke. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe an actor that's had a lot of jobs for a while and that kind of thing. And that's the kind of inbuilt joke, is that he's reinventing himself via this medium. And, like, Luca as well. Like, she doesn't have a tongue.
Yeah.
But obviously she can't speak, but nowhere does she say how she communicates with anyone. She's going to look at people.
Yeah. It just communicates through glares, which.
Yeah, it's like
The thing is, they
various
didn't even do
stages of being
anything.
angry.
Yeah, they didn't do anything with that because it's only the one angry glare,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
the writer doesn't put any connotation behind it. Where it's like, okay, well, can you imagine the type of face she's making so that we can actually either get intimidated or laugh at it? Like, it's really predicated on we have to make sure we got an actor who not only fits the role physically but can actually emote these types of images to either get the comedic joke across or the serious tone across. And I'm thinking that's a big ask to do in a script with so little to support or inspire the actor to do something, because I'm looking at it from like a writer and producer side where, okay, if I'm casting this role and it's a mute role and I need someone that has a specific look and I need to know that they can give certain faces, I have to go through the script and be like, well, what face do I need this actor to give us at this point? And I'm looking at the script and it's like I'm not getting any hint as to what action is supposed to be there other than intimidation. And I'm like, well, is the tone for this scene intimidation for comedy or is it intimidation for, drama? And it's
never
not
given to you.
quite focused on that point, and that's one of my issues with this script, because it dovetails into the other part, which is unfocused, and it also breaks the credulity of it, which is that their big plan is to storm the governor's mansion, which is fine,
Mm-hmm.
but Juan wants to rally the people to do so, and he does so by taking over the local broadcast of the soccer game, so that everybody's watching, and it's going to be projected on like the big screen at the stadium and whatnot.
I like
And he just gives a speech, and it's not a very good speech. It's just kind of a run of the mill, stop the corruption type of thing. And yet it inspires everyone in the stadium and everyone in the streets to start their march onto the governor's mansion. And I'm thinking that is way too easy. And it breaks that rule, like never make anything easy for your main characters. And
well, one part I liked of it was, so they kept flipping back between Juan and the state TV thing, right? Show, and it was going on the radio as well, randomly.
Yep.
So, I cut back to the football stadium, and they'd emptied, and the players were training. They were getting themselves warm up, getting themselves ready for the game, and they were oblivious to what's going on. Usually, as football players or soccer players are, they're oblivious to what's going on because they've got to concentrate and get themselves into peak fitness and get themselves into peak mentality, etc. And it cut to like a father and son randomly, obviously to show how this is working on the common man in Mexico, or in this state in Mexico, shall we say. And the commonality there was, well, the stadium's emptying, right? So folk are rightfully annoyed.
Right.
And then it cuts back to the father and son, and the football comes on, and he's like, I just sit down and watch the game.
Yeah,
like, okay, I get that. I get that. That's a kind of try to have a joke at it. But at this point, the serious nature has now been given. We've been given the end game per se, right? Very cliched word to use, but here we are, right? We've been given the end game of the script. We've been given the end game of the potential film. Is that this is what he wants to do? Now, I don't mind him waffling a lot of nonsense on the TV, right? Because my headcanon was he's a known quantity. He's like a revolutionary fighter.
Yeah.
He's a known person
he's
in
an
the community.
So hero, of sorts.
Yes, and he's sitting there going, jump. They're going, right, let's do it. How high? Let's go, big man. And that's his call to arms per se, right? I don't mind that being Scottish. We've had a lot of that in the history, right? But I don't mind it personally. It's no Mel Gibson, waffling on Braveheart.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it because it felt, moving through it, it felt natural to me. I mean, obviously, you look at it more subjectively. You look at it as like the script writer, the producing, that kind of thing. You look at it that way, but as a normal person, it felt natural. Fair enough, his words weren't flowerful, they weren't powerful either. But again, we're just reading the script. Someone who has got the chops could make that powerful. They could ad-lib bits in there. There's certainly bits that could be added in that. I mean, I'm pointing up because I've got it in front of me. I like to keep where we're at in terms of, so I don't get off on a tangent and start talking about nonsense.
Well, no, that's okay, because I think you're making a fair point. My only point of it is that I didn't feel like Juan was able to show us in the story that he had earned this position where people would follow him, because I would go back to something like, say, The Mask of Zorro, and that opening there, Zorro rescues those three people, and they're all cheering on him because he's just rescued these three people in front of the governor, in front of Raphael, and then as he's making himself away, you've got the Padre, man of God, elbow a soldier in the nose who's about to shoot Zorro in the back. And it's like, okay, I understand the relationship now, because I see he has sacrificed himself to save these three strangers who he doesn't know, because he doesn't want the governor to kill him, and it's about free Mexico at this point in California. And then he escapes, and the people have rallied behind him, and he's a hero, and he's victorious. We never got to see Juan do anything like that for the average person, nor do we see him do any sort of excursion where the public is around and the public starts to defend him from the authorities, like the narcos. And I think that's a big part missing from this, where that if it was there, I could believe if he got on state television and said, we are going to storm the governor's mansion, who's with me? I could buy into that, because I already know, we've already seen examples of people already in support of him, even though it's to their own detriment, where the narcos could come down and just completely take him, or the police or the federalists.
You could kind of see that. You could kind of see that in the wrestling match a little bit. Half and half, that kind of thing. But again, I felt that was just shoehorned in. But I mean, look at it now, right? So you look and it goes, right, so he's waffling away on Spanish on the telly, right? And it starts cutting to different places, like normal people places. Like there's a mechanic, there's a network building the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and then he name drops them. So he starts naming these people. Now, your common man might not know these people. They'll know the governor, of course, right? They'll know who he is, but they're not going to know who Sordomundo is. They're not going to, they're not going to know this person unless they've had dealings with this person. And let's be honest, if they've had dealings with this person, they're not going to go out and actively look for these narcos because they know what's coming their way. So that kind of broke it a wee bit for me, a wee bit in terms of that. But personally, it didn't bother me. I could see why it was there. Now you've stated that, obviously, it makes a little bit more sense where you're coming from. But for me personally, if I watched this on the telly, I'd be like, all right, I get why he's doing that because he's the Robin Hood of the, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he's the liberator. He's
Maybe
the
Robin
one
Hood's
that...
the wrong person to use, but
No. I
Zorro
mean,
definitely.
it's fair to a degree. I mean, it's all about liberating an unjust, a self-appointed ruler as opposed to one that's kind of for the people. I mean, he talks about how the only thing that the government has done well is maintain the corruption and the oppression.
Yeah.
And sure, that's a nice line there, but I mean, I would have liked to have seen a bit more show examples of that, because it's all, I mean, again, when you're dealing with these types of relationships and you're expanding upon the setting, if you want any one party to make a point, you need to give us evidence of that actually occurring. Because right now, like, the only time we got the corruption is something that comes as a byproduct of later, which is when Captain Baldigo gets kidnapped by basically the partner of the governor to essentially be executed, and then he's saved by Juan. And then we're like, okay, well, where's the next step of the corruption, right? Well, we get the exposure with the congressman, but it's like they're just all guys that are kind of cheating on their spouses with prostitutes. And I'm like, okay, well, listen, that may not be
Just
morally
randomly drops
correct,
that in
but
there
I
as
don't
well.
see how that connects to them being corrupt in the office with which they hold. It's like, listen, yes, politicians are going to have their own dirty secrets, but it's like, if they're not doing anything that is violating their oath of office, I don't see a conflict if they have an affair with someone else, especially if that affair has anything to do with their fact that they're in office or anything of that nature.
But that's it. There's no real conflict of interest there. It's not like he's getting on. Get his leg over on like he's enemy or he's next in line kind of person.
Like, again,
I get that,
if they can link the prostitute to the cartels, then you've got something going on there. But that's not established in this context here, where we don't know that they're being manipulated that way. So it's still ambiguous. It's too ambiguous for the purposes of this.
I agree. And I think that you've got to do a lot of heavy lifting in this.
Yeah.
Like in Mexico, I've watched Sicario, right? Fabulous film, right?
Oh,
absolutely fabulous. And if this had came along before Sicario, I would be lost. I can read the news. I look at the news. You hear of, well, we don't really hear about here in the UK, but potentially, if it's a major one, you might pick it up on like the BBC website or something like that.
Okay.
Well, other news sites are better and are available, I may add. And I would never have known that about the corruption in Mexico, about the car. I know about the cartels, obviously, right? You know about the cartels, but you would never have known as depth as this.
Yeah,
and you had you had to really put the pictures together, like we were talking about the senators there. They really done nothing wrong towards the people. They just got caught with their trousers down. How many politicians have been caught with their trousers down? Let's be honest, a lot. Right? It happens a lot. Men of power crave more power. That's the problem. And you absolutely agree. You don't see them stealing money. You don't see them letting the cartels away with murder. You don't literally away with murder. You don't see them doing anything.
The people in any specific way. I mean, that it feels completely unjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unnatural.
Absolutely. And you don't see them going, oh my God, like you're nailing rings of coke off a prostitute's arse. You don't see that. Do you know what I mean? Did you say, oh, there's prostitutes and there's, oh my God, that, and it's like, well, that's kind of weak.
Yeah, it's kind of thin. It's like, if you're going to establish that I mean, I understand the writer is balancing on two poles here. The first pole is that the superhero has been hired by the local government, the governor, to stop, to rescue some kidnapped people. It's like, well, that's the context. Okay, we have corruption that is affecting the body politic. We want the hero to save it. Good. Then we find out the truth. Well, no, he kind of hired this superhero so that they could frame Juan Rolo into executing him on camera. That didn't go over so well. Or like, okay, cool, we get the corruption, so we get it on that point. He wants more power. How much power does he have? How is he exploiting the people? Are they pushed to the brink where they could revolt, but they're too afraid to revolt because they don't have anyone to be rallied behind, even though Juan Rojo is doing a pretty decent job. And Ron Rojo is trying to say, well, maybe this Captain Bald Eagle will be that extra push to allow me to get everybody around. And we see a couple of examples of that with the soccer game, with the wrestling match. But where's the pushback on that? Where's the oppression of the government? Where are the the narcos or the federales on every corner with their guns aimed at people, just waiting to like get them on some sort of minored indiscretion so that they can show and abuse their power? It's absent of the strip, and as a result, we're not getting the consequences of the setting, and because that also doesn't line up well with. Well, we got Captain Baldigo, who is supposed to be our main character, and he doesn't really have a motivation, even though he's gained something that he wants to fight for. The whole question is, did he ever want that in to begin with? And do we ever have any revelation where that's kind of what he's been missing in his life, is having a wife and a family? And is there any sort of parallel that could be injected where it's like Juan Rojo says, family is what's very important to us here? Like that, where's those connections that are made to show a thematic element of this, which is you're fighting for the preservation of the people, and what do the people value more? They value their family, they value their culture, and they don't like the fact that being oppressed, extorted, and perverted by politicians that are taking advantage of our own good nature so that they can maintain power and wealth. All of those elements there are could be seated in this script quite effortlessly, and the ones that are touched on in such a slapdash way that when we get towards when Gabby is kidnapped and then her ear is sent to Captain Bald Eagle, it just doesn't feel like it hits as hard because we're still missing all that extra stuff. Because right now it just feels very isolated into it's the governor, he's working with Sordomundo, and we don't see it bleed out into any other part of the life in this southern state of Mexico. So it's like I need more, man. That's just me.
Well, there's that one scene.
More. Yeah.
There's one scene, it's like a sentence long, maybe even a sentence long, and it goes, the governor's on the phone to the president of Mexico, or Prime Minister, whatever it is, right? He's like, yes, of course I'd like to go to Washington with you. And then you're like, that's it, nothing else is stated. And then when obviously it all goes south, there's a phone call, and he's like, I'm not available. I'm like, just one sec, like, a page, 2 or 3 pages ago, you were given it, I'm loving to come to, I'm wanting to come to Washington and do all that kind of stuff. And then a couple of pages later, I'm not talking to him. But we don't know is that president could have been phoned and said, here, pal, I'm getting you the federales, they're coming now. I'm sending you because you're my best man. That then shows the corruption. That shows the people. Yeah, you know what I mean? But that, I felt that was quite a missed thing, that. It was just something randomly put in there that I don't know, I can't get my head around why. I was just like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? But absolutely, you're right. I mean, listen, I could sit here and talk for hours. And as you know, the last one we did talk for hours. And I'm awfully cautious that we don't want to be running over or anything such as that. But all in all, apart from everything, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I mean, I could see this getting made. I mean, don't give it a massive budget. It doesn't need it, right? I could see it being maybe one big actor. Antonio Banderas is Juan Rojo, and you're like, yep, that's money right there.
Sure. Actually, I'd like to see him as Governor Pena, because you don't see Antonio play a villain, and he's old enough to.
Oh, Benicio del Toro, he'd be good as a governor, man.
He'd be good as Sordomundo too. Like just.
Oh yes. Well, I was thinking about. Listen, we're not a casting agency. We're not casting this role, but I genuinely liked it. I thought it was good. Obviously, we're not going to go into the spoilers here.
Well, yeah, we can't get into the climactic spoilers, but we will say it's a big action set piece. That's as far as we'll go. Okay, so Gums, you said you liked it, so your rating, is it a green light or a pass?
I got a green light. I'd give it a green light. Personally, I would. Okay. I'm probably going to get slaughtered for it, but that's my own opinion. I quite enjoyed it. I read it today. I've read it most of the week, since Thursday, since it was given to me, and I've done a real good read today, and I've put my points up that I felt broke the immersion for me personally, and apart from that, I quite enjoyed it. I liked how Captain Bald Eagle was written. I thought he was written well. He could have been written better if they went further into his past in terms of the heroin addict side. And it wasn't even him that told us, it was Juan. Juan told him. He told him. And you're like, how do you know that? It's because Juan's previous job. And you're
Yeah,
like,
because right, because Juan
that's
is
that.
established as an ex-CIA who left after his mother was killed and came back to
Yep.
Mexico. So he's got all these. He's got well, he doesn't so much have resources, but he has an understanding of how to use what he can do for that. I really wish we got
Guerrilla
more
warfare.
substance into that. For me, mine's more of like a reluctant pass, but like
Okay.
it's only by a hair. It really is only by a hair, and that's just the fact that I wanted some more motivation from Captain Bald Eagle. I wanted to see, like, I understand where he was. I understand that he got very happy with being with Gabby and her kid Diego, but I needed that bridge where it's like where he has to kind of realize that that's what he wants, and it doesn't really get to that point, that revelation where it feels more like Captain Bald Eagle is being kind of
Mhm.
dragged through this story as opposed to co-driving its story. And
Yeah.
I think it might have been better if they just kind of swapped it to Juan Rojo, made him really the focus of the character, because he's the guy that's got all
Well,
the plans in motion. He's the one that I kind of liked reading a little bit more because he was a little bit more interesting, but he was also
Mex. Do you know
yeah
what's funny? Right. Do you know what's really funny?
go for
Just
it.
popped into my head right now. Right. So he works for the CIA. So we have a place. We have a time.
Mm-hmm.
We know he's a genius, right? We know he's of genius level IQ, right? You had the chance to make an actual Mexican Iron Man. Sorry, Mexican Iron Man, right? But an actual Mexican Iron Man. You have the super serum. It exists in the narrative. We've been told it exists. You could have kept the bald eagle, right? And you could have had him as like the older statesman type one. He's retired now, he's done his
Mm-hmm.
bit, like a bit like Captain America did, went back with Peggy. I mean, who wouldn't want to go back with Peggy, let's be honest. Right? And then you have that chance to create something that the Mexicans, the Latinas and Latinos will go, give me that. I want that. That's ours. Because it was written by a Mexican. It's about us and it's a superhero. You're like, boom, there's money. That's it.
Could
And
be.
that's
Yeah.
that. See if they just did that, then it would be passed for everybody. This would have been made by now. But I just think you're absolutely right. And it's not like a full sale, like I'm 100% behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pass purely because I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite
You mean a green
like,
light? Yeah, it's a green light for you because you enjoyed it, which is
yeah,
I'll defend your choice on that, till the day I die, because I think it's a valid part. But like you make a good point, which is that yes, there could have gone a bit further.
Mhm.
I think if it committed more to the comedy tone, that probably would have sealed it
yes.
for me and let me ignore the fact that Captain Bald Eagle wasn't the main
Deadpool does it.
character. Yeah.
Deadpool does it. I mean, he breaks the fourth wall when it's Ryan Reynolds, let's be honest. But
Yeah.
that's got to be written by not just Ryan Reynolds, it's written by other people. Deadpool does it. Other superheroes have tried to do it. Some have failed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some have not. And you're like, it can be done. It's just, I think it was, honestly, I'm loath to use the term, right? But I think it was just because they were trying to bolt in so much Mexicanism. No, that's not a word. Mexicano, that's a word, right? Like Mexican things in
Mm-hmm.
it. And I'm like, the football's natural. I get that.
I
The
dug that. Yeah.
montage, you're like, it even says end montage. And I'm like, I know it's not in the film, right? But
I
see if they
mean,
put that in the film, that's comedy gold.
it
Because you're like, that's the kind of shit like Austin Powers would do. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like Kingsman
mm-hmm.
is a very graphic, extremely ultra violent film, but it's funny as anything.
Yeah.
Because the actor in the script is good. This could have been, if they could fix the problems that both of us have alluded to in this, I think this would have been made quite easily. And this man would have had a sequel. Or written something else, maybe in the background of one, maybe in the background of CBE, because you when you finish it, you want to know more. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the climactic ending is the climactic ending. But you want to know more. And that for me it's a very slim pass. Slim.
No, you said green light. For me, it's a
55%.
slim pass.
Green
For
light.
you, it's a slim green light.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's right. No, it's okay. That's cool. But I like the fact that we got the different of opinions on that, even though a lot of it bleeds over. I think you know what?
Yeah.
I think that shows that the script has a lot more potential than we would expect. I mean,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
still think that
I
first act is really strong. I love the fact that he gets kidnapped. I really wish that comedy tone kind of just played a way through.
yeah.
Maybe get a little bit more agency in there. Maybe throw us in some nice romantic banter or something romantic that's of substance between Gabby and Captain Bald Eagle,
Yeah.
because brushing that over the montage just felt like I was being robbed of something that could have been fun, that really connected.
Yeah. It's like you say with Captain America and Peggy. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're
exactly.
like,
Like just something.
he came back for her because he spent all his life without her. And that's why he went back and did what he did. Obviously, spoilers, Troops, but Endgame's been out for nearly a
He
decade
owed
now.
her a dance, and
Yeah,
he's
that's it.
90 years
And
too
then you see
late.
them dancing, and you're like, oh, cinema. But aye, absolutely. But you know the thing is the fact that both of us agree on the shortcomings.
Hmm.
But mine's are coming from more of I would say like a public kind of setting. Let's be honest, right?
Sure, but
Um,
that's the most valid one you can have because you're the one that you
and
buy the
then yours are
ticket.
coming from the technical side aspect, where you're
Hmm.
like, do you know what? That's there. That annoys me. That I personally were annoyed probably by the same things you were, and I like they could have done a lot more, fleshed out a lot more of the backing characters, especially the baddies. I feel like there's Sordomundo, then there's the governor, then there's like the governor's hangar owners, and like every time she's only in this like two scenes,
Hmm.
and she's a 20-year-old person doing their nails. Like the receptionist for the governor's just sitting doing her nails. One time it's pink, and the next time they go in, they're going green.
Yeah, it reminded me
That's that.
of the secretary in RoboCop who didn't really do
Yes.
anything.
Yes. So yes, that's there just so some person can have a job. I like that. But absolutely no, we agree and we disagree on broadly similar things. I just think the wrestling thing just a bit ridiculous to be honest with you, me. But it was just there to set up a set piece, let's be fair. It wasn't there because narratively it naturally went there.
Hmm.
No, at not one point did anyone say, apart from obviously the part at the end that we discussed, narratively no one say, yeah, let's go there and let's have a beer and
Hmm.
all that nonsense. But hell, but yeah, absolutely, I'm waffling, so I'll stop.
You're not waffling. You're good because you're getting out those ideas, and that's what I want people to hear because I like these different points of view of opinion. I like the fact that we identified a identical source, but we have different resolutions to it.
Yeah,
It's
I just
part of
think
what I'm
honestly,
looking forward for this type of show, and it's something I'm hoping the audience listening out there is grasping onto
yeah,
because this is how we get a little bit of a fire under on the early stages of the creative process for the writing side. Like if people are getting into the
mm,
writing sphere and they want to figure out like, well, how do I set myself apart from the competition? Well, we're reviewing their competition, which is these scripts that are being circulated around, and we've got
yep,
difference of opinions of them. But I also think like this one scored fairly high. It's in the top 20 of that year of the blacklist. I think
yep,
that's a fair assessment for it because it's got a lot of good to it.
yep.
It doesn't technically collapse in the third act. It just loses that comedic tone, which I really wish it could just have
They
maintained
tried to
all the
keep
way
that.
through.
Absolutely,
It just feels like it
absolutely.
becomes a different stylized form of a movie, and it's like if they could just keep on
Yeah,
throwing some extra jokes in there. I like the fact that Juan Rojo is a very consistent character.
yeah. I thought he was written consistently. I thought him.
Hmm.
Sordomundo, we didn't really know much about apart from he's just evil for the
Yeah,
sake of being
evil for
evil.
evil's sake is it was
The
kind of
governor,
boring. I didn't see what was at stake for the governor or Sortamundo with
no.
regards to their power because it just doesn't feel like Juan was actually moving the needle at any point.
Well, you had that funny one as well where see this is going to go on for hours now, right? But you had that funny one where the governor thinks he's running the Sordomundo, then you've got Sordomundo going, well, no, here, pal, actually, I run you. Like, I tell you, it's my muscle. It's da da
Hmm.
da da da. So, well, who's the Palpatine here? Who's the really bad guy? Like, who's? And to me, it was Sordomundo. I'm like, you're just evil. You just put a bullet in him, and be done with it.
Hmm.
That would be my answer to that. But he's just evil. And the other guys, apart from like I said, the professor. Oh, he's 40, looks about the same like everyone else, but he's got glasses. Why? Because he wears glasses. That make him a professor. Because I must be a tenured Harvard lecturer than the amount of glasses I've got. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
things like that, and like the same with the other side with the good guys per se. Because I use that very simple term because their names I'll probably butcher them anyway, and they, they weren't fleshed out apart from her getting her tongue cut out. Right, so right, okay, I get that, but like, how does she talk? How does she? Well, don't talk, obviously. How does she communicate? Does she do sign language? Does she do American sign language? Does she do Mexican sign language? Does she just point and grunt like a tourist at what she wants?
Yeah.
You know, that just that tiny wee extra bit. Because Bald Eagle could have just went, so how does she communicate with you? Oh, she just looks. Well, am I a mind reader now? Like, well, what the new bits of lottery numbers, that kind of thing. And a wee bit more on that side, it would have been a lot better for me personally. I think the idea of him being the superhero per se would have worked better. It would have
Yeah.
been all Mexicans, you know what I mean? The American side subplot, as much as it is there,
Yeah.
You're like, this guy's taking the job for money because he's no money. He needs money. He's taking the job for money. He's then away down the rabbit hole per se in this Mexican state that's never named. Let's be honest. So you can use your
All we know is it's in the
imagination.
South, and it's closest to South America, so it's
Yep,
got
yep.
those issues there. I mean,
We've got Colombia office. Aye, like, we'll not go further into that. But yeah, I'm waffling again. But yeah,
no, it's
listen, this has
cool.
been brilliant. I love doing these. I'm looking forward to being butchered in the chat for my accent, no doubt.
Oh, don't be
But
butchered. I understood you, and that's what matters.
aye, but
Oh
no,
boy.
I liked it. I greenlight it, and I look forward to doing more of these with you, my friend. These are good,
Yes,
really good.
I as well. Thank you so much, Gums, for doing this tonight. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts out there in the audience? Did you get a chance to read this? If not, and if you want to read it, reach out to me via the Twitter X at ScriptDoctorPhD, or you can sign up to the Patreon, where you find out what scripts we'll be reviewing for every Saturday show, and be able to get a little inside track onto that. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. We've been We've been watching this recording as it's happening, premiering live on this show. So we're in the comments as well. So we've been answering those to the best of our ability. We want to thank you for your participation for that. If you are celebrating a holiday weekend for this episode, have a wonderful holiday weekend. And remember, guys, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.